What is going on, IF Warriors? It's your boy Edward V, and today we're going to talk about the 16-8 intermittent fasting efficiency explained. Now, I'm going to talk about some of the benefits that come with 16-8, but I'm also going to touch on things you can do to increase the efficiency if you're only utilizing the 16-8 method. Stay tuned. Okay, I do understand that a lot of people don't want to move from the frame of 16-8, but please understand that the longer you fast, the more body fat burning you're doing because you're allowing your insulin to remain at baseline for a longer period of time. But if you want to do the 16-8 diet, you still get benefits of intermittent fasting. You still get the reduced insulin. You're just not in that state for a long period of time. So what are the benefits of doing a 16-8 method? Flexibility. You actually have the utmost flexibility when doing the 16-8 diet than you do with any other intermittent fasting protocol. Now, if you reduce it, for example, to 14, then you have more flexibility, but you're really limiting your insulin being at baseline for a good, decent amount of time where you're putting a dent into your fat loss. And also you're diminishing some of the health benefits when it comes to intermittent fasting. I definitely do not recommend going lower than 16-8. For example, doing 14-10, in my opinion, is borderline not even doing intermittent fasting. Yes, you're fasting for most of the day, then you're eating, but it's so close, you're only about 4 hours off. And then also understanding the post-absorptive range, you're not going to be doing much. 16-8, in my opinion, is the lowest that you can do where you're actually getting the ball rolling to activate some of the health benefits and to keep your insulin at baseline. So basically, flexibility is at the top tier of what makes 16-8 special over the 20 versus 4 or the OMAD diet. Along with the flexibility of getting an 8-hour eating time window, it also presents the least amount of disruption. 16-8 is very good if you want to get your feet wet with intermittent fasting. If you want to step into the realms of intermittent fasting, but you're very scared and you don't want to do a 24 or an OMAD, it's definitely more easier for you to do the 16-8 as your intermittent fasting protocol to start. It doesn't disrupt too much. It's basically just skipping breakfast. If you're a breakfast eater, you just simply have to skip breakfast, and then you can get into that range of doing 16-8. Because remember, when you're sleeping, that accounts for fasting, and that's already about 8 hours. So that's about half of your fasting time frame. So those are the benefits that you would get from 16-8 over the other intermittent fasting protocols. But let me talk about how you can make it as effective as possible. A few videos back, I did talk about the post-absorptive range. What time frame does it take for you to get into the post-absorptive range? And the time frame that it would take for you to get to the post-absorptive range is about 6 to 12 hours. Understand that the reason there's a range is because one, people are different hormonally than others, but also there's a lot of variables that are dependent on your insulin. How high has your insulin gone during your eating time frame? If you've eaten a lot of carbs, if you've taken in a lot of sugar, your insulin might be higher than normal. For example, a day that you didn't eat that many carbs and that many sugar, your insulin doesn't go up as high. So if the post-absorptive range starts from 6 to 12 hours, then you have to take into account what you're eating. So if you want to be as effective as possible with the 16-8, then you want to reduce your carb and sugar intake. Yes, if you reduce your carb and sugar intake, that means that your insulin won't go up as high. Remember, the process of it going up is very fast, and it blocks fat from being burned from your body. So your insulin has to drop to baseline. So if you're only doing the 16-8 method and you have a post-absorptive range of about 12 hours, that means you're only burning fat for about 4 hours. So that's 4 hours of actual fat burning, tackling the fat aggressively and effectively in one day. So what you want to do is you want to get yourself into a post-absorptive range closer to the 6 hours than you are to the 12 hours so that you can give yourself 10 hours of body fat burning. And the way that you do this is consuming less carbs and sugar, as those things turn into glucose as they enter your body and your insulin goes up. The more of those that you have, the higher your insulin will go. You do want to increase your fats intake because that has the least amount of glucose receptors that will activate your insulin. So yes, technically you may want to enter the ketogenic diet for a 16-8 intermittent fasting protocol. One other thing that you definitely want to interject when you're doing the 16-8 method is fasted exercise, fasted cardio. When you do fasted cardio and you do exercise, one, when you build more muscle, you become more insulin sensitive, so that allows your insulin to work more effectively and get down to baseline faster. And the same thing with cardio. When you increase your cardiovascular system, you become more insulin sensitive as well. So you want to interject eating less carbs and sugar and increasing your workout regimen, and especially when you're fasting, so that you're burning more body fat during the times where you're working out. But all of this is designed so you can tame your hormones much better, so that you can go ahead and burn body fat more effectively while you're doing the 16-8 method. If you add working out as well as consuming less carbs and sugar when doing the 16-8 method, you can be much more effective with that protocol if you want to stick to the 16-8. This is how you stick to the 16-8 while still getting those amazing results that people that do 20 versus 4 and OMAD can get. So yes, there are psychological benefits in terms of less disruption and flexibility, but if you want to burn as much fat as possible, you need to interject those two strategies of reducing your carb intake and sugar intake, as well as increasing your weight resistance and the cardio that you do for the day. If you interject these two things, you will be as effective as possible with the 16-8 method. And I want to thank my patrons from my Patreon, and I'm going to put their names right up here. And of course, as always, I will see you on Sunday for another FAQ. Peace!